All right, so we are on Ignite session 10. We've officially made it through the halfway mark. After today, we'll have 8 more sessions. And again, we're meeting once a week to go over each session. Why is my clicker not working? Okay, so here's kind of what we've covered so far. We've already covered the real estate expert, we've covered lead generation, and now we're into the lead follow-up portion. There's a couple of sessions that totally focus on lead follow-up, and then we'll get into transaction specific things. So today we're talking about keeping every lead, and then we'll go into following up, strengthening relationships, and qualifying potential buyers and sellers. And actually, Chris, I think it's like a perfect time based on some conversations you've already had. I think this is a perfect time for you to be jumping in to these sessions with us. All right, so today's agenda is what is lead follow-up, how to lead follow-up, and then post-lead follow-up. So we're going to talk about establishing a system of follow-up today and making sure, like we talked about, it's a system that's followed every time and that there's automations you can add into it so that the tech is doing some heavy lifting for you. All right, this is a diagram we did, we talked about last session, and the squiggly line is when people move every 7 to 10 years, with the top portion of it being that move. Okay. Now the odds of you having somebody that moved and you see they moved, they didn't use you, and then them turning around and moving immediately and using you are very slim, almost to none. Yet once you're in relationship with the people over time, consistently, that's what will lead you for them to use you in future moves. The little dashes are showing you your proximity and how often you're in touch with those people, and that when they know a move, they know they're moving, they call you, you're in emotional proximity to them, or they hear of someone moving and they refer you business. So people have a perception of leads and, oh, well, they're not ready to buy or sell right now, so that's not a good lead. And that's not true. You should have all of your contacts in your database and communicating with them systematically and frequently. That's where your leads come from. It's not that one person will or won't do business with you in the near future. That's the really, I don't want to say the wrong perspective, but that's not really the perspective that's going to help you. The perspective should be, I'm building a database or a data bank. I'm collecting information. I'm putting them on automations. I'm contacting them. I'm staying in relationship with them. And that's those tally marks getting to them moving or someone else they know moving, so that you can get referral business, you can get listing business, you can get different transaction opportunities because you're in communication with them. Everyone has future potential to bring you business. Even your mom, Chris, even your mom. We talked about that. So don't forget that. All right, so here we go. We're looking at a framework for lead follow-up. So we have possible business, which leads to probable business, which then leads to profitable business. You need to think of leads that enter your database through lead generation as possible business. Lead follow-up helps turn the leads from possible to probable, with the end goal being profitable. In 2021, the National Association of Realtors Profile of Home Buyers and Sellers details the opportunity that lead follow-up can provide to your business. They collected research that shows that when selecting an agent to use, 73% of buyers only talked to one agent, and 82% of sellers only contacted one agent. The data shows also that most buyers and sellers talk to one agent deciding to do business with them. And so how does that ensure, how are you going to ensure you're the agent that they talk to?
By reaching out, making sure
But
you.
reaching out and making sure you have mind share
Mhm.
with your sphere of influence. No one else should obtain mind share in real estate with your sphere of influence because they know, like, and trust you. So that means the odds of them being willing to do business with you are high. In the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, it says if you aren't first or second in their mind, you probably won't get the business. And there's some study that does major brands. And basically, this study shows that your brain can't remember or retain more than one or two things in each category. So if I say, I've got a sneeze, you're going to hand me a what?
A napkin.
Are you going to hand me a napkin or are you going to hand me a Kleenex?
Oh yeah, that tissue.
Right.
Mhm.
If I'm going to have a carbonated beverage with my lunch, what are the odds I'm going to say, you know what, I love a Mr. Pibb? You're probably going to say what?
Uh,
A Coke,
yeah, Coke.
right? So you have Coke and Pepsi, you have like McDonald's and Burger King, or, you know, there's typically in all these categories, you know, if I asked you the most popular brand of tennis shoe, what would you say?
Nike, Jordan.
Right. So if I asked you to name 10 different types of tennis shoes and say you're not a tennis shoe aficionado, you may not be able to even think of 10. I'm sure there are 10.
Mhm.
And it's the same thing with real estate. If we're not thinking, and we talked about this yesterday, it's not their job to remember us, it's our job to remind them we're here and we're ready to help. So making sure that you're first or second in mind. A lot of people, I get a lot of discussion back going, oh, well, everybody knows a realtor. Their cousin's a realtor. Their aunt's a realtor. Well, that doesn't mean they won't do business with you. So don't limit yourself by going, oh, well, there's 5 million realtors in the world. But like we talked about yesterday, and there's a lot to do with this lead follow-up, is one, you're going to be in communication with them more often. You're going to have a strong relationship with them. And when they're thinking of real estate, you should be that first or second person they think to go to with a question or with a piece of business. All right. I'm going to skip over ahas and we're going to talk about how to lead follow up. Okay, so this may blow your mind. Don't let it, because this really just is that plan we talked about and having a plan to follow. So you want to be intentional and strategic with your lead generation efforts and be thoughtful about how you're going to follow up and gain that mind share that we talked about. So this is a system where it shows you what we know is fortune is in the follow-up, but this is how to gain mind share. So this first portion here is talking about leads that it's people you have not met before, and creating a system. A lot of it, 90% of it, is automated and can be through command. There's a portion of it that will be you calling them or inviting them to something or personally reaching out to have a face-to-face interaction. But this is that unmet group. So say you do have somebody in your sphere that refers you business. This is what you're going to make sure every piece of those people are on is a 19 to connect. So these are the people that you pick up the phone and call them, and they don't necessarily know you. Now, when we get to the 36 touch, that's everybody you know. That's people that already know Chris and would talk to Chris. And it's just honestly a few more touches, but that's not telling somebody necessarily who you are. That's more of showing and reminding them of the value. In this 19 to touch, the 4 phone calls, the 12 touches, which we can do, the neighborhood update information, we talked about those emails. That's showing somebody who you are. That's introducing them to you as an agent and the value that you provide. so that you can start gaining that mind share from them. The one in-person thing, people always think, oh, well, I don't have the financing to do a big client event. And this doesn't necessarily have to be that. This can be, hey, there's a community event going on. There's a 4th of July event over here in Pike Road. I'm going to save some spots. Please let me know if you can join me. This is, hey, there is a flea market thing going on, or hey, there's something going on downtown, and I want to see if you wanted to join me in that. That could be that. It doesn't have to be an elaborate client event. Now, when you get to that point and you're making $5 or $10 million a year, doing that volume, you may have a special, hey, client event once a year. And that's just part of your expenses that you've already booked in. But to begin with, it doesn't have to be extravagant. Okay. But the point is, they want you to make sure that you're doing a face-to-face with them, and you're not just sending them information, that you have a relational contact with them to cement your relationship. You're connecting with them. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. All these are already kind of, built in. And when we talk about tech, we'll do a lot of this. A lot of this is automated. Remembering though, when you're communicating with people and they raise their hand and they say, yes, I have a referral for you, or yes, I'm interested in doing business, that it's speed to lead. So if you don't lock them down for an appointment, if you don't lock them down for that information, the odds of someone else coming in and potentially getting their business is high. So please remember that, making sure that you have them engaged in your database. You have those smart plans that we've talked about working and going, and it's not just, oh yeah, I'll do that later. It's very intentional with every step of the way. All right, so consideration for best practices in a lead follow-up program. We kind of covered this a little bit yesterday, Chris, but you want to look at what are your strengths when working to people. How can you adapt those touches, like we said, that makes it sound like you. You don't want to sound like a robot or someone. Chris didn't come up with this. You want it to seem like who you are, true to you. And then what are some reasons I might have for contacting the lead? What are some touches that you can do before or after a phone call? We also discussed that. How am I using conversations to let the person know I'm in real estate? How to, contact me, and how to refer business to me. You're going to think this is so silly, but you really do have to train people on how to refer you business. It's not only that you ask for it, it's, hey, please be sure to send me that contact over. I'd love to touch base with them and introduce myself. Or, hey, would you mind introducing us in a text thread? You're teaching them what to do. And it's not that they don't have the intention to do it, but your timeline is different than theirs. And so you don't want to come off pushy, but if you already have that, oh yes, can you introduce us in the text thread? You're already telling them what your expectation is. It doesn't come off pushy, and you're not sitting around waiting on a lead. All right. And when is the best time for me and my business to time block for lead follow-up? How much time should it take to reach out to a lead? What will I do to hold myself accountable? And what do I need to do to make sure this happens? So, of course, that speed to lead makes sense. What are you thinking about how much time it should take to reach out to a lead?
So if I had a list of leads, give them a call. And then if I had to follow up for an appointment, say, ask them, if it's a for sale by owner, for example, I would say if I could call them maybe in a month time frame if they still haven't sold the property to get a follow-up. I were to guess.
And that's true depending on the lead itself. But say someone, you put out on social media, hey, I've got this app, this website, log in, tell me what you think. And you have 5 people that log in and command shows you have new leads. How long are you going to wait to respond and say, hey, thank you so much for downloading my app?
I'd probably do it as soon as possible, but like within reasonable timeframes. I wouldn't do it like
Right, you're not gonna text them at, midnight,
yeah.
but maybe that next, what would be considered business hours, you say, hey, thanks so much for downloading my app. Please let me know what you think. And then you have a reminder for yourself to touch base with them in 30 days. Hey, I'm just checking in. We hadn't talked in a while. I did notice you downloaded my app. Have you had a chance to use it? What are your favorite things on my app? It's really having some conversation and being intentional with the tools that you have. Holding yourself accountable to that. And I can't tell you how many times, I know you saw in the thread today, on the text, the little image with the different emojis. People will post that on Facebook, put that on social media, have 25 people respond. And I say, well, how did you respond to them? Nothing. It stops there. So that's why you personally send a message, send a text if you know the person well, give them a phone call. Hey, I noticed that you said you needed a realtor. Oh my gosh, I had no idea. I'd love to represent you in your real estate needs. Tell me about what your plans are this year. Or they say, I don't know the process. Hey, Chris, let's get together. I'd love to walk you through the next steps. And you may or may not be ready right now, but I'd love to tell you and just have you informed and ready when you are ready. So it's important to not just let it kind of die with a graphic or that first conversation. And that's the point of lead follow-up. All right. So this is an example of you being able to take kind of that 19 to touch that we talked about and look at the cost of what it could be. And as I said, it can be very cost effective. You can throw a lot of money at it. So the calls, text, conversations, free, of course. Those 12 touches, it's got different combinations of things. I say at very minimum, you already have a platform, you already have a CRM that will send out market information either every 2 weeks or once monthly. And so at minimum, everybody you need to at least know an area that you can, if you put the area in there, the neighborhood in there, or say a city, it's going to do that for you. That's no additional cost. You can pull their birthday cards or their birthday dates from Facebook. You can put that in your CRM and send them a birthday card or at least a little image, happy birthday. When you start building rapport with, like you said, for sale by owners and things, making sure they have an updated market report on their neighborhood, their property once a month. That's very cost effective. That's you doing some research on MLS, sending that over to them, calling them with that information. If you're recording some informative videos, hey, you know what? I was just doing some research on the property values in Pike Road, and it turns out the appreciation is at 20% this year, and they're expecting it to be 25% next year, whatever it is. And then you send it to those people possibly in Pike Road. Again, that's free. You know what I'm saying? There's many, many things. If you're buying birthday cards, honestly, you can get some cute ones on Amazon for $15. It shouldn't cost a lot. The promotional direct mail, I just don't know that this day and age you have to do something like that. I think if you're doing a mail out or something like that you can definitely do it without doing some sort of $500 campaign. I just think there's Vistaprint, things like that you can kind of create a very cost-effective generic postcard, letterhead, whatever it is. Or you can very inexpensively sponsor extracurricular sports, something, whether it's little kid stuff or a intramural flag football team, softball team, co-ed team. You could do something like that for very inexpensive if you have that sphere to connect to. And then the event, we talked about that. That could even be one person in our PC group, her neighborhood had a yard sale. And so she set up in her own yard, and she didn't really have anything to sell. But she set up, she put information about her having an app. She handed out like waters and snacks, and that was a face-to-face event. So that would also be something she could have invited people not in her neighborhood. Hey, my neighborhood's having this awesome yard sale. Y'all come by. I'm going to be here too. I'd love to see you and talk to you. Is this all making sense?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
I
The
got
first
you.
time I saw this, I was like, oh my God, how am I going to keep track of this? And again, not to just talk tech so much, but these are some examples.
Mhm.
Command literally will say, hey, Chris, call Adam. You haven't talked to him in 90 days. So it'll even like tell you what to do once you've kind of drafted out your plan and said, this is what I want it to look like for me. The people that don't do this though are the ones that go, oh yeah, I meant to send out a mailer.
Mm.
I forgot to do that. Life just gets busy. So make sure you have Chris's 19 to touch. And honestly, going ahead and going, okay, this is what I'm gonna do for my 36 touch, and just doing it for everybody would not be a problem.
Okay.
The more touches are not gonna hurt you. If you do, we start looking at neighborhood stuff on smart plans, and you choose to put everyone on a 2-week neighborhood nurture instead of the 1 month. That additional touch every month is never going to hurt you. Even if someone doesn't open the email, they see your name in their inbox. So,
Sure.
all right. Of course, you want to focus on value. You're not just spamming people. You want to make sure that when you speak to someone, you capture as much information as you can. You talk to them and ask good questions, which we'll cover in a lot of our scripts and conversations. You'll get accustomed to the questions to ask. And then you figure out how you can add value to it. We had in session 4 of Ignite, everybody create their own unique value proposition. And basically it's your elevator speech. If I say, hey, Chris, why should I do business with you? You should know what to say,
Mhm.
right? And you should get so used to saying that your close-knit group can repeat that for you and will be repeating that for you. But if you don't know and they're like, oh yeah, I just use Chris as a realtor, I'm like, okay, and then I go thinking, well, don't I know so-and-so that's a realtor? There's not really a reason that I would use you if somebody doesn't give that glowing recommendation in what you do specifically. Oh man, Chris is fantastic. He helped me come back from deployment. He helped me purchase a home, and he's really involved in the military community. Now that says something different than Chris is a realtor, right?
Yes, it does for sure.
Create that value proposition for yourself. Say it a lot, communicate it, make sure that that's your message. And then as you're engaging with leads, again, that's your value proposition. And that's how you're going to say, hey, this is how I can serve you. And as they have a need, you're fulfilling that need. And make sure that you have, it makes sense to the lead. Like we talked about, if someone in your group refers you to that military referral,
Mhm.
and they're coming to Maxwell, you're going to, of course, reach back out, and that's going to be your connection. You're not going to just generically reach out and go, I can help you find your dream home, right? Your message will be specific to where the lead came from. If you're getting a lead, we talked about maybe doing social media ads. If you're doing off that, then of course your lead follow-up is going to be introducing yourself and building a relationship before you jump into, oh yeah, we'll go look at houses. All of it has to make sense based on where the lead came from. And you want to make sure to use the conversation to find their motivation and what their timeline is and all those things. And then that's where you bring the statistics and data and you say, hey, this is where the market is according to where you are in your journey. All right, so here's some potential lead sources. And I don't know why these little orange boxes are all over the place, but A call in, a community event, open house, social media marketing, traditional marketing, your agent website, past clients, purchase leads, client referrals, sign call, blog or newsletter, making good questions as you're talking to these people is very important. And it's going to bring clarity again to the value that you add. If you don't ask a lot of questions, you're not going to seem very knowledgeable. And I think that a lot of people think, oh, well, I don't want to ask any questions. I want to seem like I know it all. When you go to your doctor, does your doctor not ask you 5,000 questions about what's ailing you or what your need is? That's how they can diagnose to help you. And that's what we need to do. They've got the calls out highlighted because you want to follow TCPA and not spam people. Making sure that if you're using a call list that you're checking and making sure that it's scrubbed for the do not call. So
Understood.
And don't use an auto dialer.
Okay.
All right. Why are you thinking about buying or selling? Tell me more about your situation. What will that do for you and your family? What timeline are you thinking? And as you're kind of getting initial questions, we have in our kit a buyer and seller lead questionnaire that we'll give you. It has great questions, but it's really important if possible. And I know you're challenged sometimes if someone is deployed and you're having that conversation about the moving back, it may not be a face-to-face, like in person, hey, come to the office, but you definitely want to jump on a Zoom or something so that you can have that interaction. You're just not solving all the problems on the phone. All right. So this is our funnel. This is what was taken from the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book and created into a diagram. So we've talked about this in other Ignite sessions. But when that two-way communication is established, it becomes a contact. And then you make sure you have them on those touch plans to cement the relationship. But as you can see, the lead capture comes from prospecting and marketing. Again, we've done an Ignite session on the difference in the two. You want to be prospecting based and marketing enhanced. And then your database is where you keep all that information. That's command. You're cultivating relationships for that conversion, and you're getting new repeat business and referrals. And it's just a giant loop. We don't want people to do business with us one time. We want to continue that relationship to have lifelong clients. Any questions about this?
No, I think
it's really just the flow of the lead is all it is. All right, the one to submit. So this is where you're making that relationship solid. You're getting in a committed relationship. So these 19 touches, you may not have had the opportunity to really cement your relationship. It may have been a lot of voicemails. It may have been a lot of things you're putting out, but they're not necessarily responding to. So the one cement touch can be a lot of things. It sets the tone for your relationship. And so it's going to tell them about your service. It helps set conversation for later. And, for example, you could offer your first home book as a gift for a first-time buyer lead. We talked about that, having a seminar or something, and having that a piece of, hey, I'm going to give you this coming home from deployment guide or whatever it is, but that's that piece of value that's going to like solidify who you are to them. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So we'll come up with that as we talk more about how lead generation is going for you. It'll come to you as you're creating that unique value proposition. You're calling people, you're getting information, you're going to go, oh, this is the missing hole. And that's where we'll make sure that you have something that can be of value and cement the relationship. Again, creating that gap for anybody else that they're meeting with. All right, what are your ahas so far for this session?
It just paints like a better picture for me as far as lead gen.
Mhm.
Um, like I understand the whole 19 touches, the cement, and I could see how it all correlates. And using command, I could see how people could lose track of
Yeah,
staying on top of things. So I think with command and using that, it shouldn't be that much of a like issue as far as making sure to stay on top of things. But the way it's broken down, it makes it easier to kind of like put it all into a picture and perspective on how to achieve these whatever goals, you know.
right. Well, and it's because you're smarter than me. The first time I saw this, I was like, what? What? Now, what's an experience with a business or a business owner that you've had that you thought, man, I will never use someone else for that?
Um,
Can you think of something?
I'll probably say my lawn service out here.
Okay, and why? Why did you give that answer about them?
Because they broke my car window to one of my foreign vehicles that I have that I brought back with me when I was previously or stationed overseas. I brought the vehicle back to Alabama, but they broke the window and they never notified me. They just left and continued about their day. And when I got home, there was like glass everywhere in my driveway, in the grass. They never cleaned it, and it was just a whole beat around the bush thing as far as like the
Who was
communication.
responsible?
Well, they admitted it, but they just the problem I had is that they never told me. They never reached out
Mhm.
until me finding it. And then ever since like that, they would be late to, you know, do their service for my property, whatever the case may be. But after that incident, it's all been downhill.
Now, on the opposite side of that, have you had somebody that you say, I'll only use you for business? And what was your experience with them?
Uh, mm, I wouldn't know. I don't know for a business per se, but like I could see myself say if I go somewhere or for a restaurant example, I know we would go to the same restaurants in Guam where I was stationed, but we would only want like the same server. Like we wouldn't go for anybody else because of this one particular server. That's like the best thing I could think of as far as business. I'm not really too sure.
Mhm.
I could see it being the same thing. Like, oh, I want this person to be our server because you know the way they treated us as opposed to other people. Um,
So when you came back home, are you renting something or did y'all buy something or are you
for
living with?
renting because
Okay,
we didn't know how.
so for example, you get online. This is an example I'm familiar with being in rentals. You get online, you're starting to look up a rental property, you put in an inquiry, and nobody ever responds.
Mhm.
Did that happen to you guys?
Yeah, actually, it did for this
Yeah,
the property we run now.
right. Okay, so that was a lead for them.
Mhm.
And that's how we need to think about people that say, yes, I want more information, or yes, I'll refer you. Yes, I'd love to pass your name along. We need to have a system that follows up so that as much as possible can be automated, and pieces that aren't, we're just feeding into it.
Okay.
Because that creates that consistency and that reaction you need. So there's a way in command that every lead that you have put in, anybody that's signified as a lead, they automatically start going on a smart plan.
Mm.
And so it's not that we have to necessarily remember to do X, Y, and Z lined up. We just got to collect their information and put them in there and be, of course, hold our value and be knowledgeable. But at the same time, we don't have to remember to talk to 100 people a week. it's creating that routine and those habits. And so that we're not the person that's like, oh yeah, I talked to Chris 6 months ago, but I hadn't heard from him since.
Yeah.
I don't even know what he's doing. We never want somebody to say that. So making sure that we can utilize the system that we have is super, super, super important. Okay, so this is the ahas to achievement. This is how we wrap up every Ignite session. Some sessions are longer, some sessions are shorter. But how has your thinking changed? What ideas or mindsets were new? What do you feel differently about? What was meaningful for you today? How will your behaviors be different going forward? What actions will you take? What tools, models, and systems will you use? And how will they help you be accountable? That's the things we want to think about as we are ending today. Ignite has a success system, and this is kind of the checkbox. And we talked about the 10 real estate conversations a day, add 10 contacts to your database. It wants you to follow up with every conversation you have with a handwritten note. Now, you can adjust that. I think if you have an email or a message or something that you can send out, just being like, hey, it was so great to connect with you today. That's that intention. Anyone local, though, a handwritten note is a nice touch. And then that 10-5-1 social media. So that is 10 likes, 5 comments, and 1 message a day, intentionally around somebody you haven't spoken to in a while, to boost that algorithm, because people only see what you're posting if they're reacting to your stuff and you're reacting to theirs. So
Okay.
that's a way to get out of your, you like or love 5 or 10 people probably that normally you have your kind of news feed that's typically the same. This is intentionally looking at whether it's somebody's puppy they post, their kids doing summer stuff, vacation, whatever it is, you're interacting purposefully every day with people. And we had a class on that, but in summary, if someone gives you a reaction like a heart, a thumbs up, thumbs down, haha, you are supposed to react with that to them. If they give you an emoji, you're supposed to react emoji. If they give you words, you're supposed to react words.
Okay.
If they do like a GIF or GIF or however you kids call it these days, but you're supposed to react with that because that's what Facebook wants. There was a study done on it. So try to match the interaction, and that boosts your algorithm.
Okay.
And that it opens up more people to see what you're doing, because Facebook's going to reward people that are using at a higher level, basically.
Gotcha.
It's kind of spooky, but so these are kind of the rules of the game. And every day you should be aiming. We talked about those 10 real estate conversations, put those people in command. Next week, we're going to implement SMART plans.
Okay.
But this will be kind of the beginning of that.
Okay.
Feeling good about your first Ignite session?
Yeah, I feel good. This definitely helps. So
I love it. Well, I'm going to stop record. So hold on just a second.